Today, we're going to break down a really powerful talk by Lindsay Wrege, the co-founder of a company called 321 Coffee. And what's so cool about this is we're going to see how her company isn't just, selling coffee, it's completely redesigning how a business can work, all centered around one of our most basic human needs, that feeling of belonging.
So let's just start there with a really simple question. What does it actually feel like to belong? I mean, it's not some business metric or a complicated theory, right? It's being greeted with a smile. It's knowing your team has your back. It's that feeling of working hard on something together. It's just that simple human feeling of being included.
Really, at its heart, belonging is just about being seen, heard, and valued for exactly who you are. Lindsay Wrege tells this story about when she was 8 years old. She was the new kid at school, and she was terrified. But 3 girls, Grace, Sarah, and Emma, who all happened to have disabilities, they didn't see an outsider. They just saw a new friend. They invited her to play, and that one simple act of inclusion gave her a feeling of belonging she would never forget.
But that warm memory of inclusion, well, it stands in pretty stark contrast to the reality her friends started facing as they got older. The world, it turns out, wasn't always as welcoming as that playground. And this brings us to a really crucial point, the huge difference between just having a job and feeling truly empowered by your work.
And here's the reality of the system they were up against. A staggering 80% of adults with disabilities are unemployed. And that's not just a statistic, right? That is a massive, massive pool of untapped human potential, just sidelined by a world that, a lot of the time, isn't built for them. And what about the other 20% who do find a job? Well, Lindsay's friend Emma was one of them. And when Lindsay congratulated her on landing a long-term job at a grocery store, Emma's response was just heartbreaking. She said, "Thanks, but all they let me do is clean bathrooms." So yeah, she had a job, but she didn't have dignity. She didn't have purpose. The system wasn't just failing to provide employment, it was failing to provide empowerment. So this frustration, this huge gap between what could be and what was, well, that became the spark for something pretty incredible. It was that moment when a problem turns into a mission. One day, during her freshman year of college, Lindsay was just sitting at lunch and this thought popped into her head. What if we started a coffee shop that actually truly included people with disabilities? A friend she had just met, Michael, just said, "That's cool, I'll help." And with that one simple question, why not now and why not me, 321 Coffee was born, just like that. And wow, has that simple idea grown into something remarkable. I mean, the company has expanded like crazy, but look at that last number, a wait list of over 700 people with disabilities who want to work there. That one stat right there shows you the incredible demand for a workplace that genuinely values its people. It just proves how powerful this mission really is.
So how'd they do it? How did they actually build this incredible culture of belonging? Well, it all comes down to 3 core pillars. 3 really practical principles that honestly any business can learn from.
Okay, so the first pillar is the foundation for everything else. You have to start with belief. You have to believe in the potential of every single person on your team. Lindsay tells this story about one of her baristas. The barista's mom actually pulled Lindsay aside one day, kind of panicked, because she saw her daughter working the cash register. The mom told Lindsay that her daughter wasn't good at math and that this was just going to set her up for failure. Lindsay calmly explained, "Actually, she's been working as a cashier for months now, and she's been doing it perfectly." The mom just started crying, and she said, "I didn't even know she was capable of that." See, when you believe in people and you set that bar high, they don't just meet your expectations, they completely shatter them.
Belief is absolutely essential, but it has to be backed up with action. So, pillar number 2 is all about building belonging directly into your systems, into your processes. It's about adapting the system to fit the people, not forcing people to try and fit into some rigid, pre-existing mold.
And the solutions can be so simple. So at 321, they noticed some baristas were having a hard time seeing the little measurement lines on the big cups, which led to overfilling. Now, instead of blaming the employees, they just reimagined the system. The fix? Smaller measuring cups. That's it. Problem solved, independence achieved. It just goes to show you that accessibility doesn't have to be complicated. And what's so amazing is that when you build this kind of creative, problem-solving vibe into your culture, people start inventing solutions for themselves. There's a barista named Aaron, and instead of asking customers hot or cold, he just holds up a hot cup and a cold cup. It's this brilliant nonverbal system he came up with all on his own. When Lindsay asked him how he thinks of these ideas, he just looked her right in the eye and said, "'Cause I'm smart." And yes, he is. All right, the final pillar is maybe the most important one of all.
leaving space for genuine human connection. This is about moving beyond those stiff corporate scripts to allow for authentic and, yeah, sometimes vulnerable interactions to happen.
So one barista, Cameron, greeted a customer by asking a bunch of unfiltered questions, and then he just comes out with, "I have autism. What's your disability?" And the customer just froze. She didn't know what to say. But after a second, she just kind of exhaled and admitted, "I'm not very good at math." And Cameron lit up and said, "Well, I'm great at math." And in that one moment, a scripted, boring interaction became a real, authentic human connection.
So what happens when you actually put these 3 pillars into practice? What are the real results? People often focus on the risks, right? On the worst-case scenario. But 3-2-1 Coffee proves that we should really be asking about the best case.
Let's start with the hard data. 321 Coffee's annual employee retention rate is somewhere between 90 and 100%. Now, for the service industry, that number it's almost unheard of. It is crystal clear proof that when you invest in your people, they invest right back in you.
So let's just reframe all those fears. Instead of asking, what's the worst thing that can happen if you hire someone with a disability, let's flip it and ask, what's the best that can happen?
Okay, let's take Dana. Worst case of having her work at their North Carolina State University campus location, maybe she has to cut her hours. Why? Because the best case happened. She felt so much belonging on campus as an employee that she applied to be a student, got accepted, and is now a full-time student and a part-time barista. How amazing is that?
Or how about Aaron? What's the worst case? He causes a security incident with the First Lady of the United States. Yes, that actually happened. But what was the best case? He was so overjoyed to be there that he gave First Lady Jill Biden this huge heartfelt hug. Okay, the Secret Service probably wasn't thrilled, but Dr. Biden got a great hug and it became this beautiful, memorable story.
And finally, Sam and Sophie. Worst case, maybe you get a couple of baristas who are a little distracted at work. The best case, they meet at 321 Coffee, they fall in love, and they just celebrated their first wedding anniversary. Their workplace didn't just give them a job, it gave them a life together.
So what can you do? This model is not just for coffee shops. You can start right now by being intentional with your recruiting. Go connect with groups like the Special Olympics. You can make sure your company's representation, everything from your website to your social media, actually reflects the diverse world we live in. And you can even reevaluate your supply chain and choose to partner with other mission-driven businesses. These are real, tangible first steps anyone can take.
And we're going to end right where 321 Coffee began, with a question. Belonging isn't some checkbox on a corporate form, it's a choice. And it can start with just one person deciding to make a change. So the final question isn't for me to answer, it's really for you to think about. Why not now? And why not you?